Lowdown Nation, how is everybody tonight? We're live on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Twitter. And tonight it is my tremendous pleasure to have with me Mr. Morgan Johnson, better known as MoJo, who is the bass player for a band in the Columbia, South Carolina area called Sometime in February. How you doing, MoJo?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, bud?
I think you're muted. I think your mic's muted.
Can you hear me?
I'm not hearing you.
Can you hear me?
Not hearing you, bud.
How about now? Hello, hello.
Still not hearing you. We'll get there.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? That's backwards.
I don't know. Do you want to log out and log back in?
Yeah.
Okay. We can try that. Bear with us, people. We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty here, but we'll get through this. And in the meantime, we'll just wait on him, and hopefully we'll be.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Not hearing you.
I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
I don't know.
I've got
this
it
is
coming
weird
through
because we were fine when we were talking before. Yeah, your audio's up on my end. I'm just not hearing anything. I don't know.
Hello, hello.
This is very strange.
Hello, hello.
Is anybody else hearing him by some chance?
Hello. Hello, hello.
Let me try something here. Say something.
Hello, hello. Can you hear
me?
Okay,
I'm hearing you now. I wasn't hearing you through my earbuds. This is interesting. Okay.
We good? Can you hear me?
I'm about to try connecting again here. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Okay, say something.
Hello, hello.
Okay, I've got you now. Okay, sorry about that, people. Had a little bit of technical difficulty, but we improvised, adapted, and overcame. Anyway, like I was saying, it's my pleasure to have with me Mr. Morgan Johnson, better known as MoJo, of Sometime in February, a band in the Columbia, South Carolina area. And how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you doing, buddy?
I cannot complain. It's all good. So we'll go ahead and just get started with the chat here. And MoJo, how long have you been playing bass?
So I started bass when I was 9. I stopped around when I was 13 and picked it up about 18. So do the math. 21. About 23 years minus 5. So yeah, about 18 years bass. I mean, I played off and on during that like 5-year gap, but it didn't really pick up until I was about 18.
Gotcha. You had mentioned when we were chatting in the green room before we went live that you had actually played some drums prior to that. Tell me about that and what led to the switch to bass.
So all my family is musicians. My brother Eric, the middle of the three of us, he was a drummer. Yeah, and growing up, I always wanted, I wanted to be like my brother Eric. Like we were really close at that time when I was that age. My other brother is 11 years older than me, so he was, off doing his own thing at that time. So I wanted to be a drummer so bad. And I remember my brother, sat me in his lap and was like kind of teaching me how to play along to just basic little grooves and whatnot. And then my dad and my brother, my oldest brother, are both guitar players and singers. And I was just like, we don't have a bassist in the family. So
there you went.
went with the low end,
Yeah, might as well. So, I think I know the answer to this already, but do you play any other instruments?
Yes. So I am. I left bass primarily because I wanted to be like the next John Petrucci. I wanted to be like a guitar virtuoso shredder kind of guy, and that I didn't stick with that. That was too much work.
Right.
But no, I when COVID hit, I started learning saxophone. I need to get back to my practices on that one. I haven't really kept up with it too much. I can pass I can get like a passing grade on piano, but I'm not like super proficient at piano or anything. I dabble with like the didgeridoo, and I saw on your episode with Ben talking about ocarina. I've also got a couple of ocarinas. So there's and a lot of percussion stuff too. I play a lot of different percussive instruments.
Very cool. So as far as your particular bass style goes, do you have any preference between fingerstyle or using a pick or anything like that?
All day long. I can play guitar with a pick, no problem. But as soon as I play with a pick on bass, I feel like my fingers like snapping that way. I'm just like, I don't like it. Don't care for the pick. Great attack tone for like, also like for recording precision, like especially like fast things. I think pick has its place, but I typically just double thump or play with my fingers.
Gotcha. Yeah, as I was mentioning, I'm a converted guitarist, and I'm still struggling with fingerstyle. I'm so used to having a pick that it just feels weird not to have a pick. So, it's a work in progress, but it's fun.
Also, growing up playing acoustic guitar and stuff, I played with my fingers a lot too. So like transitions were
Gotcha.
I picked up fairly well, I guess. You know.
Mm-hmm. So, tell me about your current gear and your live setup. What do you usually play? What do you play through? Any effects, that kind of thing?
So, I've got the Mesa Subway series. I've got the D800 plus amp head. I was playing through a Carvin 1600 watt prior, and now my back loves me. Prior it did not. That was like an 80-pound amp head. But I've also got the Subway. It's a 215 cab. Also very lightweight for 215s. It's on wheels, so again, my back loves me. But I wouldn't say it loves me, but it's thankful for the switch.
Right.
I have my pedal board, which I am running the Dark Glass Alpha Omega. I have a Dark Glass compressor. I can't remember the name of it, but it's fun to play with. It's a little filter, like flange filter pedal that's from Sweetwater. That it gives a lot of fun, like funk tones, and I love that thing. But I've also got MXR Digital Deluxe reverb and delay, and then I've got a strobe tuner. As far as my basses, I grew up listening to a lot of 311. So Peanut was always one of my favorite bassists. I played Warwick all the time. I grew up, my first bass ever, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. First bass
fine.
ever was actually, no, it's not behind me. Is a green Soundgear Ibanez. And my guitarist Tristan and Scott love Ibanez. So they convinced me, so I went back to Ibanez, and I've got this baby right here. And, it's a 6-string. I've also gone to 6-string, which this is what I've been spending a lot of my time on lately. Gotcha.
Yeah, I've got an Ibanez 5-string that I absolutely just love. I love the way Ibanez guitars in general. I just love the way they play. So.
Oh yeah. That's what my dad always played, and that's kind of where I got my start on was Ibanez, and then I bought my first Warwick when I was 18, and my dad was living in Alabama at the time. Yeah, and there was a music shop around there that had one. I was like, oh, you got to pick it up for me. I got the money, and made that all happen. But no, I'm back with Ibanez.
Yeah. So do you have any real preference yourself between 4-string and 5-string or greater string count basses?
So 4-strings are nice. I like the spacing. Especially if I'm doing just like a random pickup gig, because I used to be a musician for hire, like anybody who needed, somebody last minute. So 4-strings were always great for that. But I don't know. I solidified myself on 5-string. Like I never went back to a 4-string, unless like I broke a string and somebody had a 4-string on them. Like but now that I have a 6-string, I'm really loving that C. Like it's been a lot of fun having some of that high, especially with the proggy stuff.
Oh yeah, you were mentioning that at one point you had dreams of being the next John Petrucci. I guess you had to settle for being John Mayung.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where I'm at now, 6-string. That's where I'm at on my adventures. My bass teacher, he let me hold his 7-string at one point in time, and that was a $13,000 piece of equipment that like I was shaking holding.
I'm sure.
That was a Panera 7-string. I was like, I don't want to be responsible for this thing, but maybe one day.
Right. You were just mentioning a bass teacher. Have you taken a lot of lessons, or are you mostly self-taught, or how has that been?
So most of my life I was self-taught. When I can't remember if we talked about it in the green room or here, but when I was living in Athens, Georgia, my first original project that I was in, I grew up with the guitar player, and we they all went to the North Carolina School of Arts. So I started learning theory through these guys, and learning like the technical stuff. I just kind of picked up watching videos and DVDs of like Rush or somebody, and watching how Getty played or Victor Wooten played, and but when I don't even remember how old I was. Excuse me. I think I was about 27. So about 5 years ago, I went to a Victor Wooten clinic and met Anthony Wellington, excuse me, of Bassology. And I started taking a couple lessons from him, and he's a monster genius when it comes to theory and application. And I didn't study with him for super long. Just I was in a lot of transitional periods from jobs and things like that. But every little thing that I've done with him has, like, every lesson there's like a new light bulb, clicking and stuff. And I want to continue doing that. I'm just trying to get myself grounded again.
Right. So, musicians tend to collect gear. Do you have anything really interesting or unusual in your gear arsenal that you'd like to talk about?
I don't know. I've got a lot of like knickknacks and trinkets. Like I've got, cheap pan flutes, it's like, but I mean, a lot of them are like gifts from friends and family and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But like I said, I play a little with the didgeridoo. I don't own one myself, but I do have like a long piece of bamboo that's cut out to kind of replicate one. But yeah, that's like my collecting isn't like the typical, like you have like this Ampeg and Fender and
right,
you name it. It's all just like wooden knickknacks and fun stuff.
Gotcha. So just a random question while we're in this sphere. How often do you change strings?
So the very first Warwick I ever got, it's a 5-string Corvette. I bought it, and the first time I ever changed those strings was 6 years after I bought that bass. I didn't change those strings for 6 years. But we went on tour with one of the bands I was with, and I was like, it's probably time, that these will upgrade. But for my other basses and stuff, I do it maybe once every 6-7 months.
Right. Well, bass strings are not cheap.
They're not. Granted, they are a little more affordable than like when I first started playing. I remember there was one 5-string pack when I first got my 5-string that was like almost $50, and at least that's what I remember seeing them as. And now I see them and I'm like, this is so much better than $50. I've been seeing like the 6-string like Diodarios that are like $28-$30. I'm like, that's much better than 50.
Right.
Still expensive, but yeah.
What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to take a quick look over onto the Instagram tab and see if anybody has posted anything in the chat over there, or if there's any questions. So let's see here. No, it's somebody was commenting that they could hear both of us. So anyway, so moving on, MoJo. What and who are some of your musical influences?
Oh, that's a loaded question. So I grew up. My dad was a big like rocker metalhead. So I mean, I grew up listening to, I mean, I say metalhead, more like Led Zeppelin era.
Right.
Iron Maiden, even a lot of Grand Funk Railroad, Rush. But then you had my mom, who was a fan of all that stuff, but she listened to a lot of like Tears for Fears, Seal, Sade. Seal's 1994 album was actually the very first album I ever owned. And so like I fell in love with, the R&B kind of soulful, like soulful bass lines. And that's, I guess, why I'm so drawn to like the low end and stuff. But then as I was growing, I started getting more into the prog stuff. My dad was, big Dream Theater fan. And, I started getting into heavier genres. But in terms of influences, like ultimately, I'd say people like Seal, Geddy Lee from Rush is a massive influence. The Victor Wooten is probably one of the very first bass players I ever saw. And that, all that kind of coming together is what I am today.
Very cool. Very cool. So you've mentioned a few already, but who are some of your other favorite bassists? You had mentioned in the green room jokingly about Les Claypool of Primus.
Oh, absolutely. Les Claypool, I feel like I'm turning into him slowly. About to move out to the country, be a fisherman, full-time bassist. But my favorite bassist on this planet is Peanut from 311. They're my number one band. I am an absolute fanboy. They helped me get through some really dark times with battling depression and things of that nature. But I try to think on the spot like who my favorites are, and then like I have tons and tons of names that come flooding. I grew up listening, like when I actually got into solidifying myself as a musician, I really got into people like Marcus Miller and Stanley Clark, James Jamerson. Like it's hard to really know where my influences truly come from, other than maybe like the first couple people that I said.
Gotcha.
Just because those are always like the first that come to mind.
Mm-hmm. So, what was the very first concert or live show that you ever went to?
Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. I was about 6-7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my dad took me, and that was the first show I ever went to. Now, for like me myself, first show that I ever, like as an adult, paid for tickets and went to go see. 311.
Nice.
Yeah.
So in the course of your musical career so far, have you had the opportunity to meet any of your musical heroes or anything like that?
Yeah. It's crazy the amount of opportunities I've had. I've met all the guys in Snarky Puppy, all phenomenal human beings, all super humble. Met Victor Wooten a couple times. They say don't meet your heroes and stuff, but I've never had a bad experience with any of the people that I've met. it's all been a very pleasurable experience this life, you know. And I look forward to the work I get to make.
That is awesome. That is really, really cool. So, away from music, what are some of your hobbies and interests?
Oh, that's also a loaded question. So I grew up doing martial arts and gymnastics. I love doing martial arts. I can't really do. I'm slowly getting myself back into a physical shape where I can practice, but video games are a huge part of my life as well. I worked at GameStop for 10 years. You know,
Nice.
I try to limit myself to them because I do tend to get hooked really easily, and then I start putting important things to the side. I'm like, I gotta focus, you know. But like I was telling you, so my girlfriend and I are getting ready to have like a little bit of land, and we're turning it into kind of like a bird sanctuary, and you know, so tending to the birds we have currently has been a lot of fun, and you know, that's turning into a hobby. But I really like being outdoors, swimming, which we have a little baby goose, which I'm super excited for when she gets to go swimming.
Oh, that's
with
neat.
me.
Yeah, that is really cool.
So
That's so. What martial arts have you practiced? I've done a little bit of Brazilian jiu-jitsu in the past. So
I've done very minor Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I did more traditional, like Japanese jiu-jitsu for a little while.
okay,
I did Shotokan karate and taekwondo.
okay,
I, you know, jokingly at first, but then had some friends who did study it, and I started learning capoeira because I did gymnastics as well. So picking up some of that was really fun. But I'd say the main style that I studied was Ishinryu karate.
okay. So, you know, moving on to a different area here. Tell me about sometime in February. How long have you guys been together? How did the band form? Where did the name come from? Things like that.
So we've been together just shy of 3 years, a little over 3 years now. I don't know, time is a weird thing.
It is.
But so Scott, the drummer, and I have known each other for a long time. Like our dads worked together and stuff. We weren't necessarily like close or anything until one day he started working at the job I was working at. And I was like, God, you look familiar. He's like, hey, you look familiar too. And we made the connection. We're like, oh my God, you're Morgan. Oh, you're Scott. And then it was like, it's a long time no see. And he was like, I've got a friend who's got a project going. It's a solo project, but he's looking for a bass player. And it happened to be Tristan Allman, who ironically played in the band I was in prior, Aim High, for a brief period. So I had known Tristan, and then Tristan hit me up shortly after Scott did. It was like, hey, I've got a project. I need a bass player. You want to be in? So I was like, yeah, sure. Scott just asked me about it. He was like, no way. It was felt like it was meant to be. But sometime in February, Tristan's birthday is sometime in February.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so here we are.
Very cool. So, do you currently play in any other bands or side projects aside from?
No, I can't. There was 2019. I was in 7 different bands, and I don't. After COVID happened, I don't even know how I did that. You know, it's
Right.
But no, I'm just sometime in February right now.
Okay. You know, bass players are in usually a partnership of sorts with the drummer as the rhythm section of the band. Tell me about well, you've sort of touched on it already, but tell me a little more about your relationship with the drummer in sometime in February and how that goes.
Oh, we hate each other at each other's throats all the time. I'm just kidding. I love that dude to death. he's one of those types of drummers that like he knows music, I know music, we're good friends, and I was like, we jammed for the first time. We didn't have to worry about locking in because it just clicked, you know.
Right.
We have very similar taste in music. He likes a little bit more of the heavier stuff than I do. But no, Scott is. I wouldn't change him for the world.
Awesome. So
He said he was going to be watching, so I hope he's watching.
So tell me about the songwriting process in Sometime in February. Is there a primary writer in the band, or is it a collaborative thing? How does that go?
So predominantly Tristan was the he would, you know, shape out everything, like the skeleton, maybe a little bit of meat and organs in there, but then Scott and I would kind of throw in our little flares and kind of be like, oh, what if we did this, or what if we did that? And now I feel like the gears are shifting a little bit, where everybody's got a little bit more. Sorry, it was like a fly flew in my face. Everybody's got a little bit more push in there. Tristan is still predominantly the writer right now, so but I don't think anybody's like, you can't write a song, and it's not like that. It's just kind of how it's fallen into place right now.
Right. I'm going to take another quick glance over at Instagram just to see if anybody has any questions or anything like that. No, looks.
I'm just not that interesting.
I don't know about that. I think people are just being shy in the chat. So is Sometime in February anything approaching a full-time thing, or if it isn't, tell me a little bit about your day job.
So I like to approach the mindset like, even if I do one thing a week for an hour, that's still a full-time thing. I'm devoting my full attention to that 1 hour. In the grand scheme, no, Sometime in February is not really full-time. Like, I'm not putting 40 hours a week into this job. But yes, I try to devote as much of myself to this project as I can. It's my favorite project I've ever been part of. I've always wanted to be in a prog, like, instrumental, group. I always wanted to do something kind of Animals as Leaders-esque. And now I get to. So like it's been nothing but a great time for me. But outside of that, like my full-time job, I'm a shift supervisor at Starbucks while I'm going back through school. And yeah, full-time student. I don't sleep ever. That's why my brain's always.
Right. Yeah. You had mentioned that you're to me that you're studying electrical engineering. That is really cool.
It's a lot.
It is. That's one of the areas my son's considering. For when he ends up going to college, he's looking at that or cybersecurity. So who knows? But
it's great fields. Both great fields.
Oh, absolutely. So, if you can narrow it down to one or two, what have been some of the most interesting experiences you've had playing live?
I've had quite a few. Some I don't think are definitely. One is definitely not suitable for this. One interesting thing that I've had happen is I can't remember what venue it was, but we were on stage and we're just about to finish. Like we have not finished our song, we have not hit the last note, and the next band starts getting up on stage and pulling their gear up as we're still playing the music. Like we're finishing our last song. Give us like 10 more seconds. We can start, getting our stuff off the stage. Then you can come up. But I wish I could remember what venue this was, because the stage was like a small little corner in like this dim lit, like it's gonna bother me that I can't remember the name of the venue. But yeah, that's probably the most interesting, suitable story I have for here right now. But yeah, so like, why would you start getting on stage? We have not finished our set, you know. But yeah.
So, what would you say would be your favorite sometime in February song to play live?
Our new one, Hiding Place, has been a lot of fun to play. That we right after we released Hiding Place at the very beginning of February, we went on a small little 4-day run, and so we got to play that one a good bit. And that one's really fun. But probably, excuse me, between A Pillow and A Soft Place is I'm a little biased, like a little bass solo in there. But yeah, that's probably my favorite song to play.
Gotcha. So before going on live, do you have any pre-show traditions? You know, like some athletes, for instance, before they play a game, they'll unlace their shoes and relace them. Do you have anything that you do consistently before you go on?
So I did. I would always take 2 Jaeger bombs before I get on stage. 2 Jaeger bombs. That's all I need, you know. But I am currently going on 6 months no alcohol.
That's awesome.
So that's had to take, you know, its backseat. That was really the only like ritual that I had. You know, it's
Gotcha.
I used to be in a Foo Fighters tribute band called Hey Johnny Park, and our drummer Jason, he is the one that kind of got me on that, because he's also in he was in another cover band called Jaegertron, and so that was their thing. And
gotcha.
I slowly, I guess, got adopted into that ritual. But he also doesn't drink anymore, so.
Well, you know, in general, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Yeah, it's not something that I don't know that I will say I'll never drink again.
Right.
But
right.
I definitely found myself becoming a little too dependent on it. So I'm like, I need to step away.
Gotcha. So, what is your hometown, MoJo?
So all my family is from Georgetown, South Carolina, like close to, you know, Conway, Myrtle Beach area. But I grew up in a small town in Southeast Columbia called Hopkins. And this has been kind of like my stomping grounds. But, you know, during the summers, I'd go live with my mom's parents out in Georgetown. So I kind of got the best of both worlds. My brothers grew up or were born there. I was born in Columbia, but I like to say I'm from Georgetown, you know.
Gotcha. So, and you're currently in the Columbia area. What would you say is your favorite thing about the area that you're in right now?
The trees.
The trees.
The trees are my favorite thing. I have, you know, I lived in California for a while. I've lived up north for a while. I've lived in Georgia. I love the trees there too, but a little too close to city. I like being not too far from the city, but but I still like a little bit more quiet, even though I'm a very loud person. Yeah.
So we are getting now to what has become one of my favorite questions. And this is a question I have asked every time I've done one of these, and I always get the most interesting and thought-provoking answers. And that is, if you could give, knowing what you know now, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Don't take your oldest brother's bet, because when I was 13, he bet me that, like I said, he's 11 years older than me. He bet me that I wouldn't smoke a cigarette at 13. I did not lose that bet. No, but seriously, I don't think I'd be where I'm at, without. So I wouldn't change anything, but I would definitely, especially if I was talking to my high school self, do not put your worth in the hands of other people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get to decide that.
Right.
And I did that with way too many people. And that led me down a really, really bad path. But I'm no longer there. So maybe the bad path was, meant to happen. I don't know. But
yeah, they say you've got to walk through the dark sometimes to get to the light. So,
I'm proud of who I've become, and I just want to keep being the best version of me every day.
That is, that's really all we can do, man. So you had mentioned some of this in the green room, but I'm going to go ahead and just ask it while we're live here. Do you have any suggestions for any other up and coming bands to check out or potentially to reach out to for a bass player interview?
So a local bassist that I would recommend is Rodney Foster Jr. The man is a monster. He is genuinely one of the nicest people I've ever met, and just great head on his shoulders. Like I love this dude to death. Another friend of mine is Dominic DeCoway. He's the bassist for Red Handed Denial. Also, just a phenomenal human being, phenomenal musician. Those two I would recommend for the interview. As I don't know if I can think of any like upcoming bands off the top of my head, but definitely if you're watching this, check out Harry and the Hootnames.
Oh yeah, for sure. Ben Westcott was such an amazing interview. He is just a neat guy. I really had fun with him.
Oh yeah.
But you were mentioning, that at one point you played in a Foo Fighters tribute band. I recently read Dave Grohl's autobiography, and he's another really interesting guy. He's got some really interesting perspectives on a lot of things. And man, the loss of Taylor Hawkins was just terrible.
Oh, so. Absolutely. Had the pleasure of getting to meet him before he departed, and wish I got the chance to meet Neil Peart, but
yeah. Speaking of Neil, I'm actually in the middle of reading Geddy's autobiography right now, and that's also quite good. So
yeah. I have not read either of those. I'll have to definitely check out.
I would read a lot. I would say of the two, I've gotten more out of Geddy's simply because I'm more of a bass player than I ever will be a drummer. So, but they're both really good anyway. Something else that I've done on every one of these is the previous person to sit in the hot seat, so to speak, was able to pose a question for the next person in line, which is you. So Chance Reynolds, who is the bass player for an Atlanta band called Trauma Bond, I spoke with him last week on here, and he posed the question, what would be your dream venue or festival to play at?
Oh, Wembley Stadium.
Wembley Stadium. Yeah, for sure.
Especially being in a Foo Fighters tribute band and seeing the mass amount of craziness they are able to put up they put up on that stage and in that crowd. Like, I would love to be able to experience something like that. But yeah, that would be my venue of choice.
Okay. And since this is part of an ongoing series, is there a question that you would like to pose to the next person who will be filling the chair? If you can't think of anything at the moment, you can always get back to me on that.
For a placeholder until I think of something better. Favorite fruit to put in a smoothie?
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
I like smoothies, and I'm trying to like think of new like recipes and stuff and ideas, but yeah, until I can think of something better, which I will think about that a little bit more, because I do want to give you something a little bit more musical than.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, fruit in a smoothie is a great question, actually. But while we're at this part of things, I do want to announce that this coming Friday, I'm actually going to have Dave, who is the bass player for a band called Maiden Mother Crone. And he's going to be on. He's going to be on at 8 p.m. on Friday. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Like you, it took a while for scheduling and everything to finally fall together. But I'm definitely excited. This whole venture is gaining some traction, and I'm really enjoying doing these, and I'm glad that there seems to be an endless supply of victims out there.
Well, honestly, I'm really stoked that you're doing this. Like, it's a really cool platform, and I'm thank you for having me on here. Yeah, Maiden Mother Crone. I always want to say Mother Maiden Crone. We played with them at the beginning of February. They are so good. God, those guys are really good. But I look forward to watching that episode. I think that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I know that you and sometime in February both have a presence on Instagram. Do you have any other social media that you'd like to hype while we're here?
I mean, we do have our Facebook. We're getting some clips and stuff together I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know if we've already done that. I don't really like I try to limit my social media usage. Like just as with video games, I'll get caught into that little video loophole of just scrolling, and
the rabbit hole.
I don't like it. It can be fun at times. I get to see like cute animal videos or somebody doing some really cool like woodworking stuff, but yeah, I get trapped way too easily.
Gotcha. So, do you guys have any new music coming up, or any shows coming up that you'd like to hype?
So we're planning some shows here relatively soonish, but Tristan is currently on tour with Between the Buried and Me, and so when he gets back, I'm hoping we're going to be able to all get together, put our heads up, start knocking some new stuff out. But right now we'll just have to keep on trucking.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to take one more quick glance over at Instagram, and then we can work toward wrapping this up. But let's see here. No, nothing really over in the chat. But MoJo, this has really been a blast. Thank you for your time and coming on here and just shooting the bull. I mean, the vibe that I go for on this is that it's really a conversation more than an interview. And I've been able to pull that off fairly well in most of these. And I feel like I'm just sitting here talking to a friend, and it's a great thing. So
no, it's been a lovely time.
Well, I'm glad. And, for all of you that have been watching live, and for all of you that'll be watching the replay, thank you. And, if you like what we're doing here, definitely give us a follow, and, spread the word. And we're gonna keep doing this as long as there's an audience, and as long as there's people willing to sit where MoJo's sitting.
I think I may have a question.
Okay,
I don't know.
Go for it.
I don't know if anybody's asked this, but what would be your dream lineup for like bands? Like, it doesn't matter what genre it is, but who would you like to open? Who would you like to be headliners? Like your tour package, I guess. What would be your dream tour package?
Oh, very cool. That is a really good question. I'm going to be interested to see what Dave has to say.
So that'd be fun.
Very cool. Well, again, thank you, and everybody, have a great rest of your night. And I think there's storms coming through Atlanta later, so I don't know if that's going to have any impact on you. But batten down the hatches if it does, because they're saying it's going to get kind of rough here.
Okay.
But
you guys be safe.
Will do, and definitely don't be a stranger. And I'll send you some links in the next few days as I get stuff edited and into various places. And I'll definitely get that information to you as quick as I can. But have a good night, and we'll go ahead and call it an evening.
Have a good night.
And